All right, guys. So Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, obviously the VP candidate under Kamala Harris for the 2024 election, recently made an appearance on the stump in Macomb County, Michigan, where he was touting what he says is his and Kamala's pro-worker, pro-labor agenda, and got in some pretty solid hits on Trump and J.D. Vance as well. Now, this specific clip that I have pulled up here is relating to a new Trump Bible scam that, when you get into the backstory of it, is genuinely insane. So let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this clip here, and I'll give you more of the background on it.
And now he says we should just let China dominate the auto industry. But it's no surprise, Trump's all talk when it comes to being tough on China. Some of you heard this. We just found out his Trump-branded Bibles, yeah, they're printed in China. This dude even outsourced God to China. So just so we know. Again, I'm going to try and be generous here. I don't blame him. He didn't notice the Made in China sticker because they put it inside a place he's never looked in the Bible. So,
I mean, listen, fair enough hit there, right? Fair enough. Obviously, when it comes to the outsourcing of jobs, I mean, here from Bloomberg, just as a reminder, the offshoring of U.S. jobs increased under Trump's watch. So he ran on bringing all of the jobs, the manufacturing jobs, back to the United States. He failed to do that, right? There was a net outsourcing of jobs under his administration. But it was also a fair hit there from Tim Walz in terms of Trump never opening a Bible. Because I don't know if you guys have ever seen some of these clips that float around where Trump is asked, like, what's your favorite Bible verse or your favorite story from the Bible? And he'll just sit there for, a minute straight and he can't come up with anything, right? He's like, oh, I don't want to get into it. Or I really couldn't pick because the whole thing is just amazing, right? There was another clip where he was asked, are you more of a New Testament or an Old Testament guy? And he's like, I love them both. I love them both. They're both great. Guys, Trump has never read the Bible. Now, this is coming from me, obviously. I'm an atheist. I did go to a religious Catholic school from kindergarten all the way through high school, so I was raised religious. I was raised on the Bible. But coming from an atheist, I think, I could spot pretty well somebody who has absolutely no fucking idea what's actually in the Bible. For me, actually, it was reading through the Bible that helped to, get me on the track of not believing in Christianity or in any religion for that matter. Now, we continue because I also thought it was important to point out just broadly Trump's anti-worker record here. Now, this is not a full endorsement of Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or Joe Biden as if they've been immaculate when it comes to workers' rights. I've covered how I think that Joe Biden's NLRB has been a rare bright spot of his administration, but I do think that it's fair to talk about, Trump's actual legacy. So, here from the Communications Workers of America, they give a little list here. Trump has encouraged freeloaders, made it more difficult to enforce collective bargaining agreements, silenced workers, and restricted the freedom to join unions. So, a few examples of that. During a live conversation on Twitter with Elon Musk on August 12th of this year, Donald Trump said that striking workers should be fired. Now, I think that this article is actually a little bit outdated because there was a new clip at one of his rallies that recently came out where he was attacking the idea of overtime pay and openly admitted to what I think is actually just a straight up crime, and said that he would refuse to pay the workers that he was employing overtime pay, right? And would cycle them out so that he never had to do it. So there are two examples there. Another one here, Trump packed the courts with anti-labor judges who have made the entire public sector right to work for less in an attempt to financially weaken unions by increasing the number of freeloaders. Trump stacked the National Labor Relations Board with anti-union appointees who side with employers in contract disputes and support companies who delay and stall union elections, misclassify workers to take away their freedom to join a union, and silence workers. Trump made it easier for employers to fire or penalize workers who speak up for better pay and working conditions or exercise the right to strike. Trump promised to veto the PRO Act, the Protect the Right to Organize Act, and the Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act, historic legislation that will reverse decades of legislation meant to crush private sector unions and shift power away from CEOs to workers. They go on. Trump has restricted overtime pay, opposed wage increases, and gutted health and safety protections. So he changed the rules about who qualifies for overtime pay, making more more than 8 million workers ineligible and costing them over $1 billion per year in lost wages. Trump reduced the number of OSHA inspectors so that there are now fewer than at any time in history, and weakened penalties for companies that fail to report violations. Trump threatened to veto legislation that would raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. His Secretary of Labor, Eugene Scalia, is an anti-worker, union-busting corporate lawyer who aggressively defended Cablevision's decision to fire 22 workers when they tried to win a contract with the CWA. We could go on, right? This is just a short list here that they put together for us. So the idea, as some on the right try to claim, that Trump is pro-worker or that Trump is anti-war or that, whatever else the case may be, most of these arguments are complete fucking nonsense when you actually look at his legacy. I mean, his biggest accomplishment when he was the president was what? It was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It was the massive tax cut for corporations and the billionaire class. So that's Trump's legacy there, right? Surprise, surprise. A New York City, shady real estate con man is not exactly pro-working class, okay, to say the least. Now, more on the Bible story here, right? Because this is where it gets really wild. And you get to see more of the surface level corruption that goes on, not just with Trump on a personal level, but also with Republicans, pro-Trump Republicans, broadly across the country. So here's a headline: Bibles that Oklahoma wants for schools already have a problem here. Match version backed by Trump. So what do they say here? Oklahoma's top education official is seeking to purchase 55,000 Bibles for public schools and specifying that each copy contains the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, which are not commonly found in Bibles, but are included in one that was endorsed by former President Donald Trump, the one that Tim Walz was referring to there, the one that's made in China. The request is part of a Republican state superintendent, Ryan Walters' ongoing efforts to require Bibles in every classroom, which has been met with resistance by some of Oklahoma's largest school districts. And yeah, it should be met with resistance. We are supposed to have a separation of church and state. As a school superintendent, you have absolutely no business spending potentially millions of dollars on stacking classrooms with Bibles. Okay? Now, they also say Walters is seeking to spend $3 million in state funds for Bibles that fit a certain criteria, including that the pages are supplemented with U.S. historical materials. The Bibles must also be bound in leather or leather-like material for durability. They say the nonprofit news outlet Oklahoma Watch first reported Thursday that the requirements match exactly the God Bless the USA Bible that Trump urged his supporters to begin buying earlier this year at a website that sells the book for $60. Now, I looked it up just as a comparison here in terms of price point. You can get a Bible here we have on like christianbook.com, but you could probably go find one on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or something. This one is $3. $3 for a Bible. That's what I would expect, like selling a Bible at cost would actually, be around $3, okay? Trump is selling his for $60 fucking dollars. $60. And this school superintendent is setting extremely specific requirements for which Bibles he's ordering to put in classrooms, which in and of itself should be a problem. But he's making the requirements very specific so that Trump's $60 Bible is the only one that could possibly meet those standards. I mean, they continue here. They say, former Oklahoma Attorney General Drew Esmondon, a Democrat, said that the bid does not pass the smell test and said that a court could void if the process was found to limit competition, which, yeah, I mean, I think obviously that would be the case. Walters, in June, ordered that schools incorporate the Bible into lessons for grades 5 through 12. The bidding document also specifies that the Bibles include both the Old Testament and New Testament, as well as the Pledge of Allegiance and the Bill of Rights. That doesn't even make sense, even in terms of a Bible, right? I mean, this is where you get the merging in the Republican Party and the Trump coalition right now of Christianity and nationalism, or Christian nationalism, if you will. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever that the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights should be in a Bible. I mean, these things are not connected in any way, shape, or form, right? But he's setting up these requirements pretty transparently so that the Trump God Bless America Bible is the only one that they could possibly meet. Now, just as a reminder here, again, as somebody who was raised Catholic, who's read the Bible, if there's one thing that I remember about Jesus, and the Bible in general is that it's really not too much of a fan of rich people, right? So here's just one passage. This is from Mark. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, "It is not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations,' but you have made it a den of robbers." So here we have Jesus, right, in this story in the Bible, who is flipping over the tables of the money changers, of people who are trying to buy and sell in the temple grounds. And he's saying, you have made this a den of robbers. So compare this, right, the actions, the statements here reported in the Bible of Jesus, compare this to what Trump is doing, who is literally trying to market his own Bible brand that merges elements of the foundation of the United States of America with the Bible itself, and his price gouging, essentially. And now you have school districts that are spending public taxpayer money in order to enrich Donald Trump personally to the tune of millions of dollars. Is this in line with the teachings of Jesus? I mean, the same Bible, the same Jesus who said that it would be more difficult for a rich man to get into heaven than it would be for a camel to go through the eye of the needle, right? According to the Bible, I think if you read it in an honest way, guys like Trump are most likely ending up in hell. So there you have that. Now, we also have a ton of other examples of Trump grifting here. I mean, we had a crappy, according here to this fashion guy, $100,000 Trump watch. I mean, he's trying to sell a customized $100,000 watch. We can look a little bit at it here in this video that he put out.
Diamonds, I love gold, I love diamonds.
Now, I wonder where this was made, because he says that it's a Swiss company, but wouldn't be surprised if this is also made very cheaply and is, not a genuine Swiss watch. But here he is selling this. I mean, you can see it's kind of tacky. I mean, it's gold. Looks like it has some diamonds on it. I don't even know if those are real, but $100,000 for a watch. Now, there are also issues when it comes to this specific grift of potential corruption in regards to foreigners or foreign governments purchasing some of these watches, not because they want the watch or because they even anticipate that they're going to get the watch, but just because they want to be able to potentially wield influence over Trump. So here, we're going to go buy 5 of your $100,000 watches. There's a $500,000 donation to you. And, maybe we get something in return for that once you take office. So there are also issues of just out and out corruption potentially with this story as well. We, of course, had Trump selling off actual pieces from his suit that he wore when he was taking his mugshot picture. And this came sort of in tandem with the NFT grift that he was running. He tried to sell a bunch of digital photos or digital images of his mugshot. So he was trying to make money off of that. And then he basically said, if you buy enough of these, you'll have a chance at winning a piece of the suit that I wore in the mugshot. I mean, he really just doesn't think very highly of his supporters, right? We also had the $400 Trump sneakers as well, which are just disgusting. I mean, I'm not much of a fashion guy myself, right? I'm not really one to talk when it comes to these things, but if you see somebody wearing these in the wild, man, I genuinely don't know how I would react. This is one of the most disgusting sneakers I've ever seen in my entire life. It's hard for me to believe that somebody would not only buy these or wear these for free, but that you would spend $400 on these. $400 for Trump sneakers. Gold-plated, U.S. flag Trump sneakers. Jesus Christ, man. So yeah, this is, sort of the surface level grifter that Trump is. Now, this comes on top of the other layers of corruption and grifting that we know that Trump also does, right? There's the layer of him being corrupted in the same way that most American politicians are corrupted, that they take money, millions, billions of dollars from corporations, from the billionaire class, and then they turn around and once they're in office, they do the bidding of those same corporations and billionaires that funded their campaigns. So there's that level of corruption. But with Trump, there's also the personalized corruption, right? Where he's made millions of dollars off of the Live Golf Tour, for example, after doing deals with the Saudis when he was the president. You also had his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who got $2 billion from a Saudi investment firm to his company, right? $2 billion after they left office and after doing the bidding of the Saudis while he was there. You have this other, this other contract that he's doing with the government of Oman as well. I mean, he doesn't even really try to hide this shit at all. I mean, some of this is, especially when it comes to his dealings with the Saudis, like, think about how much Republicans have been up in arms about the Hunter Biden stuff, right? That he basically traded off his dad's name as being a Biden and got a job that he wasn't qualified for and made a bunch of money off of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm not going to sit here and defend Hunter Biden. I think that if he committed crimes there in terms of corruption, he should be prosecuted. He should be in jail. That's totally fine. I could give a shit about Hunter Biden. But if you were to take like the most aggressive interpretation of the allegations against Hunter Biden and Joe Biden that Republicans have been levying, it still doesn't even stack up to the shit that we know about Trump. I mean, there are multiple different layers of out-and-out corruption and grifting and sort of con artist behavior that we see from Trump on a regular basis. This is just part of his character. This is who he is as a person, and it's who he's always been throughout his entire life. He's always been stiffing workers and being a New York City real estate con man. This is always who Trump has been. Right? You could go back years and talk about like the Trump Steaks or Trump University as a grift, as a scam. This is who Donald Trump is. So fair enough to Tim Walz in this instance. He's right to attack him on this. And when I started looking further into the Bible story, it really is insane. I mean, this is the kind of shit that in a reasonable country would be totally illegal.
Politic guy has the best politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying